Hey everyone, welcome to Locked on Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, JJ Redick says the Lakers are, quote, going through it a little bit, facing some adversity. Is that a blessing in disguise? At least one Laker thinks so. We'll explain next.
You are Locked on Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked on Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how, where you get your podcasts. It's always free, never behind paywall. And of course, Locked on Lakers, Andy, on YouTube is where over 34,000 subscribers are all hanging out. And they are wondering if maybe tonight, Andy, is the night in Indiana, things get better for the Lakers. They have, in the words of JJ Redick, been going through it, meaning it's just, it's a slog. Everything is off. They are facing adversity, and nothing is coming easy for them. They are out of sync, and it doesn't get any easier. Schedule is tough, basically through to the end of the season, and the Lakers are playing some seriously high leverage games. They got to get things back together quickly. Can they do it? We'll talk about that as the show goes on. We'll let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA. $20 off your first purchase. Getting the team on track, at least one player thinks this adversity is potentially a good thing, and we'll talk about that as the show goes along, Andy. But the responsibility, if you ask Luka Dončić, for getting this team on track, doesn't end, but starts with Luka Dončić taking some responsibility for the poor performance on Monday.
Well, he said, quote, obviously, I've got to do better. I've got to talk more. I talked in the first half, then kind of let my voice down. I shouldn't do that. But he also said, I think me and Bron think we should be the guys to do that. And I thought it was interesting, the idea that Luka both put that on himself as one of the stars of this team, but also set it up as a co-star partnership and responsibility with him and LeBron that didn't feel in any way like trying to slough off some of this to LeBron. I think it's an acknowledgement of the setup with this team and Luka's respect for LeBron.
Yeah.
Like that both of them are going to play an equal part in this. I also think
you certainly don't take, even if you try to tilt the on-floor product to something that is more built around Luka than it is LeBron. And I think the Lakers are certainly trying to do that. You're not removing LeBron's voice and leadership from the equation, and nor would you want to.
LeBron's voice matters a lot with this team. Like we talked about during that period when LeBron was hurt early on, the communication was lacking. JJ Redick talked about that. Other players talked about that. And it is in part because, not entirely, because the other guys, there's an onus on them to do better, but LeBron is the best communicator on this team. Like, particularly on the defensive end, he is a better communicator than Luka. Like, he's a better defender than Luka, and he knows the intricacies of defense better. And this is not, by the way, meant to be a dig or, a detraction of Luka as a defender or whatever. He's never been asked to be a defensive quarterback the way LeBron is. And LeBron's voice just matters, period. Like it may be Luka's franchise now, like big picture. As you said, he's the guy the offense runs through. But LeBron is still, even if you think Luka is the most talented guy on this team overall, he's still a guy that looks up to LeBron. And like from a gravitas standpoint, with all sincere respect to Luka, he ain't at LeBron's level yet. And I think Luka knows that.
Yeah, I don't see this sort of balancing act as really a problem for the team. I think it's just,
I think it's interesting.
No, I know, and I certainly wasn't trying to imply that you did. I just, what I think is kind of fascinating here is this, there's a balance here between the stuff that is sort of controllable, its attitude, its mental, its investment, all that stuff, and then some of the physical stuff. And JJ said on Monday they look tired, and I think they, the second half results, what they did in the third quarter coming out of the break. Just terrible third quarter on both sides of the ball, 18 points offensively. And I think they gave up certainly more than 18. I think it was closer to 30. 34. Yeah, on the other side. That plays a role. You talk less when you're tired. And you brought up the point and emphasized that we spent a few minutes on it for Wednesday or for Tuesday's show, just talking about the trade-off of, yes, when you can play defense at that elite level, it's great, but that was defense that was based a lot on effort, and efforting like that in every game takes a toll. So they need to find balance. We talked about, the league adjusting back to the Lakers. Orlando didn't double. Chicago didn't double as well. They're making the Lakers a more stagnant team by basically daring them to play one-on-one and make like a single pass at the end of a possession. And it's lesser of two evils, to say the least. If you're a Lakers opponent, that is impact. So that's something that the coaching staff has to work on. There are pods of things that are sort of out of sorts and need to get back in alignment. It starts with Luka and communication and all these other things, but that's one of 5 or 6 or 7 things I think that need to get fixed.
Well, DFS after the loss in Orlando said that, quote, we let our offense mess with our defensive energy. And that tracks with a lot of what we were talking about last night with the your turn, my turn between Luka and LeBron, into a lesser, but I think still tangible extent, Austin, and how all three of them really deteriorated into a lot of iso ball and a lot of just seeking out mismatches, seeking out just at times very difficult shots with very little ball movement. And, when we were talking about the lack of production from anybody other than DFS in that game, and I remember you brought up Jordan Goodwin and
among the supporting cast. Yeah.
Right. The supporting cast. And like I talked about how with Goodwin, I couldn't imagine that Goodwin, his usage was at I believe it was 3.7%, which is shockingly low for a point guard at that, for 13 minutes. And I remember I said, like, a little bit offhanded, I would be shocked if he might have touched the ball 5 times. I got the tracking numbers for touches. I was not that far off. He got 10 touches in that game. He had almost as many passes as touches. There's a reason he scored 1 point. Like Rui, for example, he had 22 touches in this game. I looked up the averages basically from February, Luka's arrival on. Rui's averaged almost 40 touches a game. And it makes no sense to have Rui on the court if you're not going to get him a certain amount of shots. Like Jackson Hayes even had lower than he's averaged over this period. And the other 3 guys weren't necessarily at their averages either. They were slightly below, but it was just very out of whack and very dominant towards those 3. And it reminded me a little bit of Brian Shaw back in the day during the Kobe Shaq three-peat era. There would be those times where Kobe and Shaq would make those pointed comments about the other guys needing to step up more and needing more production from Fox, Shaw, Ori, Fisher, Devin George, those guys. And Brian Shaw used to say that, this is back when 100 points, 95 to 100 was a big night offensively. He would say, we'll give you your 30, and laying out, that's their responsibility. It's on them to give 30 for Shaq and Kobe then to combine for anywhere from 60 to 70. And he was both laying out their responsibility, but there would be times, I remember this, paraphrasing a bit, when you'd hear Kobe or Shaq grumble a bit, and Shaw would say, oh, man, we gave you the 30. And the inference is either give us more involvement, give us more shots, and it's on us to connect, or you guys average 30-ish a night. But you can't have this both ways. You can't expect us as a supporting cast to shoot 75 to 80% collectively. That's not a formula.
Right. And to the point we were making for Tuesday, to the point we were making earlier in the segment, there's something about that, when you to how it looks like teams might, when possible, approach the way they'll defend the Lakers and the allotment for this group. We'll get into that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the sneakers on the hardwood, maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside if you happen to be in LA. And if you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff and just shows you the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. And the super deals is part of the Game Time Picks, which highlights the best bang for your buck. There's peace of mind with Game Time, seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a lowest price guarantee. So you book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Andy, I know for a fact that people love subscribing to this show via iTunes or through Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. They like watching it on YouTube at the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. And increasingly, Andy, people are also love subscribing and getting the show via newsletters. Who doesn't like getting mail? My 6-year-old loves getting mail. You can be like her and get mail every day delivered to you from this show.
New school mail. We're not writing letters, just so it's clear.
I'm not your damn pen pal.
No, I mean, but your daughter does not like getting emails. She's 6. She likes getting snail mail.
No, but she doesn't like, junk mail, like emails and stuff. Like, she doesn't like sorting through her inbox any more than the rest of us. I'm kidding. She doesn't have an inbox. She's 6.
Right. I'm clarifying to people that the mail is arriving in their email box.
So it's not a snail mail newsletter. Good Lord. Anyway, LockedOnDaily.com, click on Locked On Lakers. Thing shows up to you 5 days a week. The comparison you were just making with the Lakers and the three-peat era is essentially the bet the teams are making now. If we will bet that between Luka, LeBron, and Luka, LeBron, and Reaves, that you guys won't shoot 55% as a trio if we just make everybody play straight up, defend you as best we can, don't give you the outlets, don't give you the easy lobs off of motion to Jackson Hayes, don't get the swing so that your open three is an even more open three and an even more open three after that. We're just gonna be like, okay, like if Luka can give you 35 and do it on pretty good efficiency, and LeBron can give you 27 and do it on pretty good efficiency, and Reaves gets to the line 8 or 9 times and hits a few threes, whatever, but
get to the line, or they don't. That's
right. But I'm just saying, whatever it is, if they end up, we do this and they draw enough fouls, you guys get to the line and, your efficiency is good. They put up 90 points. The rest of the team does their 25, 30. Okay. Lakers win. Like that's the bet we're making, because the alternative is we throw doubles at Luka, throw doubles at LeBron, whatever it might be, start tilting the floor, and all of a sudden the ball's flying around. Guys are happy. They're touching the ball. The defense, as DFS noted, when more people are touching the ball, when the shots are better, when guys aren't standing around, offense impacts defense. This is not a new story. The Lakers need to figure out a way to counter that so that they are not reliant on that sort of equation, because I haven't looked at it. They had 19 assists in the game on Monday. I don't know exactly what their record is when they're 22, 23 assists or below. I think they average a little over 25, close to 26 for the year. I bet it's not very good. When that ball doesn't move around, it's and assists are an imperfect measurement because they are not, they are a subjective stat, especially on the road. But as a shorthand, when the Lakers roll in with 19 assists, I'm pretty sure that was a bad offensive night.
Well, what's also interesting about that too, like the idea of taking the supporting cast out of this to some degree and daring, I think the three guys universally considered your best three players, you guys go off, as opposed to often you'll see teams try to put it on the supporting cast. In this game in Orlando, between Rui, DFS, Jax, Gabe Vincent, Dalton Connect, Goodwin, Vando, they shot 12 of 23 from the field. So 52%. Like, they didn't put up many shots at all, like 23 shots between 7 guys, just equaling what Luka put up. And that doesn't even count the amount of times that he attempted to put up a shot, got fouled, got sent to the line instead.
Right.
Those guys were 52%. LeBron, Austin, and Luka together were 44%. And some of that
significantly
was
higher volume.
Right. Like, and significantly higher volume. And some of that was Luka being very inefficient anywhere from the line. But the truth is, none of those three guys individually shot 52% either. And while you don't want to make too much out of one game, I think the game that we saw in Orlando is like a great example of the worst way the offense can devolve and the thing they really need to be on alert to avoid.
And I'll make one more point about this, because it's not just, okay, you're letting LeBron go. When the Lakers can't create that motion, can't create the more favorable matchups, force double teams, make teams pay more consistently if you don't double, whatever it might be. It's not just, you're not getting the most dangerous version of LeBron, for example, like the one that's been flying around the court that gets the ball on the move and, off an extra pass, because the defense is caught in a rotation. Good luck stopping that LeBron. It is not possible. The LeBron that you force to square up and put the ball on the floor and kind of old man at the YMCA his way to the basket, he still might score, but it's less of a given. And in the meantime, it limits the Lakers offense to, okay, finally the help comes and maybe there's one kick, maybe two, but then you're out of shot clock at that.
It truly becomes a make or miss league. Like the cliche, like if it's one guy gobbling up 85% of a possession and then the shot, it is truly a make or miss league at that point.
Yeah, and those guys, it's like you've got to choose, like who, somebody's got to take the make or miss. Like, Luka Dončić is not a bad choice, but it's a question of, are you mad? Like, this is not, we're not the JJ Redick does not want the game to be, nothing but a little bit of screen and roll and then a lot of isolation and guys trying to break down. That's not what he's trying to do. That is where they've gone to in the last couple games. But I am fairly sure he and the coaching staff are not sitting in their meetings just going, got them right where we want them. Like, that's not how this is. So you mentioned that quote from DFS. I think what he's correct, but there is always a tendency for athletes to be like, whatever we're going through is exactly what we need. Like, it's, that's just how these guys operate. It's the best of all possible worlds. It's just the mental games that they play. What he is correct about, though, the part that he's really right about is when you're winning, you don't see as much. You don't see as much of the stuff that maybe ought to prevent you from winning. You don't feel it as much because you can kind of be like, that 3 minutes at the end of the first half wasn't great, but like, it didn't ultimately matter. Like, nope, go back to the Orlando game. They were up by 9. If they hold that lead, that third quarter looks an awful lot different. They're being punished for their mistakes right now. And that changes behavior. It changes tactics. It changes strategy. So in that sense, I think DFS is exactly right. That is where adversity can be important because it reveals more. You learn faster, and this team needs to learn quickly. They don't have much time.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to have some irons sharpening iron, but they need to get to the sword really damn quick.
They should cut. You know what they should do, Andy? They should refill their cups.
I think this is more than refilling cups.
No, this is not anything that a refill, a good cup refilling can't solve.
Speaking of, I guess, approaches to solving.
I don't mean to pick on Darvin. I just, of all the things that are fun to make fun of about the Darvin era, refilling our cups is always going to be my favorite. It's a hell of a team over there.
Speaking of approaches that could be employed to fix the Lakers, we've been seeing a lot of, in the chats of late, calls for Austin to come off the bench.
Darvin would do that.
He not only would he did.
I know.
It's not going to happen, but coming up, I'm going to explain why I understand where these calls are coming from. So that's coming up next. Real quick before we get into this thing with Austin, I want to let people know that we have a 3-part interview with Tim McMahon from ESPN. He wrote a really good and very intensively researched book called The Wonder Boy, Luka Dončić, and the Curse of Greatness. It was released on March 25th, and part 1 of our interview actually came out on the 25th. There will be another installment of the interview sometime today, Wednesday, and then the third part will come out either Thursday or Friday. It's a lot of great details about Luka, and the interview was long, and we ultimately decided we didn't want to cut any of it. We wanted to include it all, but to make it fit in the format, this is the way we did it. But definitely check it out. You guys are going to enjoy it.
You know what that is, Andy? It's extra content for people.
It is for free.
So it is free. So it's more stuff. Don't want to stop doing regular shows right now with all the games and the playoff implications and stuff like that. But it really is. And I know a lot of Dallas fans and Luka fans may have a love-hate relationship with Tim McMahon, but
it's more hate than love. I haven't heard much love. Tim will tell you. Tim will tell you there's very little love.
So there's got to be a little love somewhere. But the content of this stuff and the insight into Luka and really how it'll fit here, what the future might hold. Part 1, which is up now, really focuses on young Luka and where this sort of guy that we see now came from. So if you're not totally familiar with Luka's background and story, there's a lot of good stuff in there, and we'll get into plenty more over the course of the rest of the interview. Darvin Kamenetsky, you were going to explain why Austin Reaves should be coming off the bench.
First of all, you should have set it up as Darvin Kamenetsky. That would have been
it was right there.
That would have been
I am going to be mad at myself for the rest of the day.
You misspelled. You misspelled rest of your life. There have been a lot of, over the last couple games, but even before then, seen a lot. Worst day ever for Brian. Similar to the Lakers, Brian's really going through it right now.
You know what?
There's been a lot.
Adversity is what I need heading into the playoffs.
Indeed. You should hang out a little bit with DFS. He can talk you down from this. But
it's so bad.
Even when things were going better for the Lakers, we heard from a fair amount of people in the YouTube chat and even sometimes on Twitter at Cam Brothers saying that they thought Austin should come off the bench. But then these last couple games where you've gotten LeBron, Luka, and Austin together and things have been going rather poorly, those calls have been increasing and more frequent, more loud. To be clear, I would be stunned if this happened for a variety of reasons, including
seeing Darvin ain't walking through that door.
That, but I mean, look, what do they have? Like 11 games left. Like there's only so much tinkering unless things are just continually going to bleep. Like there's only so much massive tinkering you want to do. So there, in some respects, there's only so much you even want to delve into the pros and cons, because again, both of us, I think I speak for you, would be pretty stunned if this happened.
Oh, yes.
That being said, though, I'm going to lay out, though, why I at least get where this is coming from. Right now, LeBron, Luka, and Austin together, it's not a massive sample size because LeBron has been hurt. Luka's missed a couple games. Austin missed a couple games. But in their time together, they have a net rating of minus 5.1, which is obviously not ideal for the three players that are supposed to be your three best.
Correct.
I took a look at some of the three-man data involving Luka. Luka, Austin, and DFS, plus 10.8. Luka, LeBron, and DFS, plus 1.9. Luka, Reaves, Jackson Hayes, plus 13.8. Luka, Reaves, Gabe, plus 5.5. Luka, Reaves, Rui, plus 13.1. Luka, LeBron, Rui, plus 5.3. This one was interesting. Very small sample size, but I found it intriguing. Only 96 minutes. Luka, Rui, and DFS, plus 25.4. But the common thing here is there are a couple of exceptions, but some of the worst three-man data involving LeBron, Luka, and in the Luka era is LeBron, Luka, and Reaves. Mm-hmm. So I get where this is coming from. And, there can be, and this is, I think, something the Lakers need to figure out. There can be a fine line between our three best scorers and creators on the floor together. That's going to be impossible to guard. And our three best creators and scorer on the floor together, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. And if there are too many cooks right now, or if they're dealing with that issue, the Lakers need to figure out the right balance between those three pretty quickly. Otherwise, again, while I don't think Austin is going to get moved to the bench, whether you think it should or shouldn't happen, I will keep understanding why people are calling for it, because so far the returns on those three together have not been great.
Right. And, some of that is the last two games.
Of course.
I mean, the sample sizes when you have the kind of results that they've had in the last couple games, it's going to skew that. If you break it down into two-man combinations in the three stars, the only one that has a positive net rating is Reaves and Luka together, which makes sense because they were the ones who were playing while LeBron was hurt and they were winning all those games.
Yeah.
Or winning some of those games.
Luka and LeBron as a two-man is basically neutral.
It's right. And the LeBron and Reaves, I think, is a little underwater as well, or I forget exactly what it is, but the only one that's clearly positive is Luka and Reaves. And so, when they had some of those other losses, remember too, either Luka was sitting or Reaves was sitting or both were sitting. So, the thing about it is the only way that could you bring Austin Reaves off the bench? Sure. You're going to play him. There is no formula that you do this where you don't play Austin Reaves as you get down the stretch and into a playoff series 35 to 40 minutes a game. You just don't, because you're not going to start. He is one of your three best players, and it's not even close. And so he's going to play. You have to figure out in the NBA how to make it work for your best players. You are not going to come out ahead by sitting your your third best player for an extra 10 minutes because you're trying to make the other two. He's not going to work. So essentially what you're doing is shuffling the deck chairs. Mm-hmm. If a guy's going to play 35 minutes a night, if you want to take him out of the starting lineup, it's window dressing at that point, because all you're doing is changing the order in which guys are playing. I can guarantee you the actual allotment of floor time that the three of those guys spend together wouldn't move. They've already got this figured out. And so
probably true.
I sympathize, but I think that, it's a problem if it's not the three of them. When they need the defense, they need Jackson Hayes to be able to play. They need Jared Vanderbilt to be able to defend at a high level. They need Rui available. The context around this matters, but ultimately what they need to do is figure out how to make the offense work when essentially now really Luka and LeBron are both out there, but needing to create space around the floor without leveraging doubles. Does that mean they got to run more off-ball action to get the defense moving more? Does that mean they got to figure out new and different screening combinations and spots on the floor to do it from, and get a little more creative and interesting? Probably. I'm not going to pretend that I'm like an X's and O's guru over here, but like that's the issue. And so if they when they were those 3 or 4 whatever games when LeBron's flying around the floor and Reaves, like, in their shot quality is incredible. Oh, it looked fine. Like, it can work. They just need to get better results. They need to have a better game plan. They need to execute it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this, I think, gets back to everything we saw against Orlando that was just so incredibly out of whack. And I'd like to think that if we can recognize it, they can recognize it, and then they start figuring out the ways to alleviate it. And the upside is you're talking about 3 talented players. And if 3 talented players find the ways to make it work, then all of a sudden it does start tilting back in that direction of good luck guarding this. Mm-hmm. And the better the offense is, as we often talk about, the better their defense is going to be.
Here's the thing, too. If they figure it out, if they don't figure it out, then the playoffs aren't going to be nearly as fun as I think all of us hope they will be. They're not going to have the deep run that the Locked On Lakers channel really wants the Lakers to have. But if they do, and then they'll go fix it in the summertime. They'll be like, you know what? This is the kryptonite. We're going to fix it with X, Y, and Z. They obviously, even if I love what Jackson Hayes has done, they need more center help. Like, that's just, it is true. They got by with it for a little while, but they need more center help. They'll fix a lot of this stuff in the summer either way, but they'll either find out how bad the fixes need to be, or they'll fix this. They'll find the solutions. They'll get the unlocks, and that will make them even better. Mm-hmm. If you thought they were pretty good, now there are 2 things that they know how to really exploit at a very high level and create the kind of shot quality that people expect with this sort of lineup. So, if they figure it out, it's that much more dangerous for the rest of the league. And there is time to figure it out. You know what they need to figure out tonight, Andy, in Indiana?
How to beat the Pacers?
How to beat the Pacers. Just win, baby. That's it. We will, of course, be back. Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 34,000 subscribers to the channel. We'll see everyone after the game tonight.